Hello, bookworms! Today I am here with my August wrap-up. It was like kind of an awkward wave in the beginning because I have a large stack of books sitting on my lap because those are all the things that I read. I felt like I had a much better reading month in August than I had in July, and I was so happy. And then I went to collect all of the books and look at my list because I always keep track. I have a list and I also have a very in-depth spreadsheet so I can also keep track of statistics of all the books that I'm reading. I'll go over that more at the end of the year. But anyway, I was like, oh, I only read 9 books. I felt like I read so much more. And then I realized how long some of these 9 books are. And then I felt really good again about how much I read. I'm just going to show you, this is just a side view of everything that I read in August, which I'm pretty happy about. So I'm going to get into my wrap up now. The first book that I read is The Lies of Locke, Lamora by Scott Lynch. This is the first book in the Gentleman Bastard series, and it was so good. It's one of those books where there's a lot going on and everything comes together at the end. So I struggled a little bit in the middle with it because I got really into the beginning story and then they kind of went in a different direction, and I was like, but wait, I want to know what's going on with this story. This is the story that I feel invested in. Fortunately, they did go back to that, but it took a little while, and then I did get invested in the second story as well. This story is also interesting because it constantly flashes. So there's a lot of the book that takes place in the present, but in between those, there will be interludes, and those are all chapters that take place in Locke's past. So I really, really enjoyed this one. I thought that it was written very well. I thought that everything coming together the way that it did was just phenomenal. But I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars just because of that point where I struggled a little bit in the middle. Then I read Harry Potter and the Cursed Child by John Tiffany and Jack Thorne. I actually did my first ever full video review for a book, and I will leave a link to that down below if you want to hear all of my very in-depth thoughts on this book. But I ended up really enjoying it for what it was. I understand that it is a play and this is not the format that it's meant to be consumed in. So I feel like if I had the opportunity to see the play, which I'm really hoping it comes to New York soon so that I can, I feel like that would change things and that would make it even more exciting. But despite this being fan fiction and having a lot of fan service, I enjoyed it, and I love Scorpius Malfoy, 2 pieces. So I ended up giving this one 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir. This is the second book in the Ember in the Ashes as of now quartet. Sabaa announced earlier this month that there are going to be an additional 2 books in the series, which is really exciting. So this is 2 of 4, but who knows if they could even pick up more, because when the book originally came out, it was supposed to be a standalone, or it was marketed as a standalone, but if you've read it, you'll know that the ending doesn't really give you enough closure. So thankfully, Penguin decided to continue on, and they purchased the second book, and now they've purchased the third and the fourth. So who knows where the series is going to go. But I actually really, really enjoyed this one, and I think I even liked it more so than the first book. And a lot of that reason is because the character in this story that is my favorite gets their own perspective told in this story. So I was really excited to see those. I don't want to tell you who it is in case you haven't read An Ember in the Ashes yet, but I really love the series. I thought this was an amazing follow-up, and there was just so much that happened at the end of this that I did not see coming. And it was so exciting and so amazing, and I definitely recommend the series. And I gave A Torch Against the Night 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read 99 Days by Katie Cotugno. I have been wanting to read a book by this author for so long because I follow her on Twitter and I read her blog, and she's just a lovely person, and I really enjoy the way that she writes her blog. So I'm if I love her blog this much, then I would have to love her books, and I was totally right. This book is completely messy and complicated. It follows a girl who comes back to the town that she used to live in. She had been dating this guy, and then she ended up kind of getting into something with his brother. And normally I do not like sibling love triangles, but this was just done so well, and everything was so difficult and challenging, and it wasn't there were a lot of repercussions for her actions, and it was just really really a pleasure to read, and I was amazed at how quickly I read it. Like I said, it was very complicated, and it definitely like made you think a lot, and I thought that the main character, despite her situation, was a very likable character. So I really enjoyed this one. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, and now I really want to read her other book, which is How to Love, and her next book, Fireworks, which comes out next year, and I'm so excited for that one because it follows like pop stars in the 90s, like during the like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys era in Orlando, and it just sounds amazing. Then I read When We Collided by Emery Lord, and I unfortunately did not like this book as much as I thought that I was going to. I had heard a lot of good things about it. It follows a main character named Vivi, and she ends up forming a relationship with this guy named Jonah, whose family lost their father, so he is kind of like the responsible one, and he's taken over his whole family as like pretty much the head, and it's just really not like a position that someone that his age should be forced into. He should be able to kind of live, and Vivi and him end up spending a lot of time together, and they definitely learn from each other, but I just didn't love it. It was interesting. It was hard to read at points because the characters would make some choices where you would just be like, why are you doing this? But obviously some of that was due to mental illness. So it's also hard to judge that because these are things that people definitely do go through. But for me personally, I just didn't enjoy it as much as I had anticipated, so I ended up giving this 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read City of Lost Souls by Cassandra Clare. This is the 5th book in the Mortal Instruments series. I liked this one better than the 4th book. I think the 4th book is definitely my least favorite in the series, but I still didn't really love this one. It moved very, very slowly. The only redeeming factor to me is that there were a lot of different countries that were represented in it because they were kind of in like this house that was traveling, so you got to see a lot of Europe, which was really cool, and I enjoyed like those descriptions and stuff. But for the most part, this was not a book that I really loved, but I've heard that the 6th book is amazing, so I am looking forward to reading that one and to finally finishing the Mortal Instruments series and not having to read any more of it. So I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars as well. Next, I read Proof of Forever by Lexa Hillier, and this book I did not like, and I was really disappointed about that because it has such a cool premise, and I really thought that I was going to love it. It follows 4 friends who go back to their camp reunion, and once they get inside this photo booth to take a photo together, they end up traveling back in time to when they were all at the camp together originally, and they realize that they kind of need to like recreate this photo at the end of the week to get back to their present time. I think the reason that I didn't like it is because it was very much pitched as a book about friendship, and obviously it's following 4 friends who are trying to do all these things, but then once I got into like the actual reading of it, it was not about friendship, and it was more about different guys that they were having relationships with, which is fine, but I was just expecting more of a friendship element, and I never got the feeling that they like were close friends. So I was very sad about that. It was very much like I felt like the author was telling me like, oh, they were friends at one point, and I was like, okay, I get that, but like I just don't see it. And then they kind of tried to, or she kind of tried to throw in that friendship element again at the end, and it was like there wasn't enough for me to like feel like it was believable. So I ended up giving this book 2 out of 5 stars. Sadly. Then I read 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, which is the Spines with Wine's book of the month for August. I think it was August. Yes, it was for August because it's September now. And we are still trying to plan our live show, so I'll let you know when that's going to happen. But I really enjoyed this one. There was so much hype surrounding it that I feel like while I was reading in the beginning, I was expecting a little bit more out of it. But as I continued, the story just kept getting more exciting, and I really fell in love with these characters. So overall, I totally loved it. It was so good. I can't wait for the 2nd book to come out this month, and I'm definitely going to try to read that as soon as I can get my hands on it. And I ended up giving 6 of Crows 4 out of 5 stars. And finally, the last book that I read in August is Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. This is one that I've been saying that I was gonna read since last year, and I finally got there, and I'm so happy that I did because I had been so nervous about it. There are so many mixed opinions. People either love the book or hate the book, and I didn't love Heir of Fire as much as I loved Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight, so I'd been a little bit worried about the direction that the story was gonna go in once I got into Queen of Shadows, but I absolutely fall on the side of people who loved this book. I thought that it was completely amazing. Like, it was so action-packed. I was interested and excited from the first page. I really, really liked what they did with, what Sarah J. Maas did with the characters within the book. The story has just gotten so great, and I have a new favorite character in the series, and I am just like so happy that I read this, and I'm so ready for Empire of Storms. I just really loved this book so much. It's definitely my favorite in the series now, followed by Crown of Midnight, and then Throne of Glass, and then Heir of Fire. So I'm really interested to see how I'm gonna feel about Empire of Storms. Obviously, I gave Queen of Shadows 5 out of 5 stars. So before I close out, I want to just show you my shirt. I don't know if you can read it, but it is a Raven Boy shirt, and it says Cabeswater. It says Visit Cabeswater in Henrietta. I got it on Society 6, and I really love it, and I've been wearing it as pajamas like every day because I'm just like, Raven Boys, be close to me all the time. But yeah, so those are all of the books that I read in August. I would love to know what you have been reading. If you've read any of the books that I've read and you have opinions on them, please share them below and we can continue our discussion. And I will see you guys soon with a new video. Bye!